I think
Yeah.
that is a great topic we can get into today, because I think what you've just said there really applies to a lot of small businesses and business owners, that you never really 100% switch off. The ideas are still rolling. The mind is still going. Before we dive in, what what do you do and why do you do it?
I am filmmaker slash videographer. I used to be a photographer. I still do like some photography where where the clients need it and stuff like that. But mainly I am in motion picture, so I deal with small businesses, big businesses in terms of mainly in the fitness industry, and more specifically CrossFit. And basically, I create either content for the social channels or banners for their websites or commercial videos for them.
Because that's
So
how
yeah.
I know we know each other because we've trained in the same gym, or used to train in the same gym. And I've been one of your athletes sort of in front of the camera, and you've been behind the camera. So I can say firsthand at how awesome the footage that you take and film, and just how incredible you make average Joe me look. So I know the top quality that you produce. Now, so let's go back to trying to switch off around holidays for small businesses. So just allowing yourself that time to reflect and to brainstorm and to sort of relax. Are you okay to share some of the ideas on what your vision is for the next few steps?
Yeah. So it. I've always had problems with switching off, and I have noticed that I cannot. I don't know how to explain it, but my brain just will not stop blabbering at me. So there's constantly something, even like when I'm doing something totally irrelevant. So the best way for me to mitigate that is I will usually get a quick note out on my phone. I will not action anything. I will not do anything. So if I have a video idea, I'll probably put the headline on my notes so that I know what I want to do when I start actually brainstorming in terms of shot list or what I want to do in terms of content. And the reason behind it is that because I'm very busy, I don't want it to have any repercussions or have it take away time from other things that I consider valuable to me. So that could be well, obviously that's relationships and all that stuff, and training and eating properly and all that stuff, because I might be the person behind the camera, but I also like to take care of myself in some sense. I do enjoy life. But what I would usually do is if I have an idea, I'll just take a note of what the topic is of that idea. I will not do anything. In my holiday, I will see based on because in the beginning I went for 2 days at my parents' place, and there's not really much to do there. So I know that I would have a spare hour, maybe two, within the first 2 days. So what I would usually do is I would just right, these are my topics that I haven't tackled with, so let's work. So I will actually work, create shot lists, create narratives and whatever I like. But I work on a very strictly timed basis, because I am one of those people that get carried away, and I could be getting ready to go to bed and stuff like that. It happened to me last night at 8-9 o'clock and 8-9 p.m. and then I'm oh, that's how I want to do that, and I sat and edited until 1 a.m. And I'd rather people no, you need to go to sleep and stuff like that. Yes, which is the healthy way of doing it. But at the same time, if I don't take advantage of that spark that I have at that moment and get through the stuff that I want, I will not have that tomorrow. Like, that idea will have been gone, no matter how many notes I take, no matter what. The way because I'm very visual, the way I've pictured it in my head is there for the moment. So like, if it goes like 3-4 hours down the line or the next day, it's not gonna happen. So I'd rather do it straight away rather than, sleep and try to do it the next day.
When I know when we've been in the gym and you've been either just doing some filming for the CrossFit Open or for our in-house competitions, we've had a bit of a chit chat, and you've explained your process to me as you're walking around looking for opportunities. You're going in then with your camera, and as the day's going on, you're piecing. I know this is the music I'm going to use. This is the shot I'm going to use. This is how I'm going to start editing. And you can see how, like you said, your visual brain is formulating it and, putting the masterpiece together. So it makes sense that as soon as your head hits the pillow, you go, okay, this is how it's going to be done. Now, you work, like, as you mentioned, you've worked with big businesses, and you've also worked with a lot of small businesses, and very much recently in the fitness world. Now, I know from being in marketing myself for the last 13 years, how getting a client's idea down to the end deliverable, we're talking about that process there. Do you have any top tips for the client on how they can take their idea into the end product that they'll absolutely love?
Yeah. And the first thing that I would say is that when, let's say, you own a small business and, you want to create an ad or anything like that, it's to keep your feet grounded. And it's kind of like my job to, let's say, keep you, the client, keep your feet grounded, because clients they don't know what happens in the back. So like, what goes behind it, what costs are involved into making a production, or even if it's videos for social media and stuff like that. They do not know like the cost that behind it. And this was one of the reasons that I was a photographer for quite a few years before I transitioned into video, because video costs a lot more, not just to the client, but it costs a lot more to me. You can have a kit of 2-3 grand and you can get by when it comes to photography, but with video it's not that. Like, just the body, for example, that I use is like 4 grand. And that's because I have a very specific niche. So it's CrossFit, it's high paced. I need the frame rates, I need all that. So, but the customer doesn't know that. It's not his job to know that, but it's my job to inform him what is feasible, what I can do for them. And they need to see like the value that you will provide. And that's like very important, because like at the end of the day, anyone can make a video for them, but it's what sets you apart from the rest on like how you make a video. So like in terms of like the quality, the flow of the video, the sound design of the video, the shots, like the framing and everything. And when it comes to the companies, the focus is usually one, it's product. So you need to remind them that, there is something that fits everyone, as in like everyone's budget. Many people look at like, oh my God, they see like this big commercial and they're like, oh my God, I want to do this. And I've worked in big commercials in the past, not as a lead of anything, or usually like a camera operator or director of photography or something like that. And the costs are massive.
Budget.
Because like you will have a whole crew and all these people need paying, and obviously it's a very like very specific skill set. So, you know, the salary or whatever you pay them will be bigger. What I'm trying to establish with what I've created, basically Chroma Odyssey, because that's the branding I've created for myself, is to do something that's efficient. It is a one-man band. And at the end of the day, it's to show that you don't need the highest of high end when it comes to, you know, content that you put out there, because it's social media. Nothing goes past 1080p. Well, at least for now. It's going to go 4K at some point, but I'm future-proof for that, so it's fine. But, like, you need, well, as a creative, it is my job to not just, like, keep their feet on the ground, but also see how I can help their brand. So, like,
But do
for
you want to use
example,
the
if it's a
example?
supplement.
Yeah, do you want to use the example? Because we obviously worked on the project together with
Yeah,
Muscle Gun UK. So we knew the placements was, you knew there was going to be a video on the homepage. We knew that there was going to be Facebook and social media advertising, and we knew we wanted a whole mixture of, sort of the lower res footage, which they took themselves, because then it then meant you guys focused on the high quality. And throughout the whole day, it was like, okay, that was the brief. You knew there was going to be 2 athletes there going to do CrossFit movements to target the CrossFit market. And you knew, well, you needed to make sure we had some vertical shots, action shots. You knew you had some horizontal action shots. You knew that there needed to be some more static product placement shots, and even just a bit of like we ended up doing that last little video, which is on the home video, which is on the website now, of going into the bag, picking out the product, using it, because that's how the person actually uses the product. And that as a process was, well, they knew that this is what they wanted to be placed where, and then you obviously took all of that ideas and was like, we're going to do this, 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 and this. And that was you for the whole day, you know?
What I think is very important is what we see a lot is a lot of like showcasing. So like you have products and they're like, you know, it's mostly like 3D renders, you know, like showcasing stuff and all that. But I think what is missing from the market a bit is the use. You need to see the human element, the human interaction. I find it very, very important, especially when it comes to like product stuff, to like humanize them. As in like have them being used, have them in the human element. You will have the showcase. So obviously like I would film like the box and all that stuff, the unboxing experience. I would make sure that there's a bit more close up so you can see the texture of the product and all that stuff. But it was a bit easier in this case as well, because it's a product that's used on the human body. So it's perfect, because like you can showcase how it works, and then you can explain what it does and where it's used, like the whole environment's used, which is fitness. And I don't know how to explain it on how I organized it, because it's usually, I consider my head unorganized chaos. So like, I know I know that I knew that I need to shoot vertical. I knew that I need to shoot horizontal. So I would put the main focus on the horizontal, because that was the main part of the brief. That was the main part that I was hired for. So I was trying to create something that has a bigger impact, is a bit quicker paced. So bear in mind, this is a banner. So you need to think of it as a user. So like, you're not going to dwell on the banner unless there's something catchy. So you need, like, in the first 3-4 seconds, it needs to be something that draws your eye, whether it's a product, whether it's a person using a product. And there are like a lot of like little tricks that you can do. So for example, you can use dynamic zoom. So like when something zooms in, it kind of like catches your eye, so you stay a bit longer, and that little split second is enough to get to the main part where you actually see it being used and stuff like that. And that applies a lot in motion picture and I how I edit or like how I film stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
I usually have it like in my head. They're like in tiers. So like you have tier one, which is the most important one, which is the horizontal. So that cannot be there cannot be any mistakes in that. So it needs to be right on point.
And
So
why
I
is
will
that?
spend.
Why on a horizontal can there not be any mistakes?
It has to do with the framing, because like if for example I need to have my framing right in terms I want to reuse something in vertical. And vertical is the same thing as well. Vertical is a lot harder in terms of framing because you cannot crop afterwards to horizontal. Technically you can, but the shot that you will take will be very zoomed out, so you will not really like the original shot will be very zoomed out, so the vertical, there's no point in shooting the vertical in the first place. So there is a lot of like repurposing, obviously, that they might want to do or they might want to ask. So I just want to cover everything, in a sense, because that is also like the value that I want to provide. So for example, I focused on that because that was the main part, and it was like very very specific that because the banners are going to be like horizontal on the website, they need to be like, I'll shoot vertical, I will not risk I will shoot horizontal, I will not risk shooting vertical and then just pray that it's going to work. So I would, if it's a 2 hour shoot for example, because it was almost like half a day, like
Yeah, yeah.
realistically that it was like 3 hours, I would focus the 2.5 hours, 2 hours on that. I would take a few like vertical shots in the meantime, like, but I would only do it once I secured the main shots that I want, and that is like the most important part for me. Once that is secured, we've got the project, we've got everything that we want. That's when we can play. So like obviously, shooting action CrossFit is a very like second nature to me. So like I don't really have to think. I'm like my I will usually like think of a song that
Yeah.
I saw on a reel, for example, and then let's say for example I see you training at the gym or like you're doing the quarterfinals. I'm like, okay, I played the whole video in my head. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know what it is, and all I have to do is replicate it with the
Mm-hmm.
camera. It's a bit hard to describe, but I already have it in my
No,
head, so I just need to like create it like
but that
in the
makes sense.
visual.
But it's if resources were endless and a fitness brand approached you, what would be your top tip to them to creating some assets, marketing assets that would be really valuable for their business?
Endless,
Endless resources, yeah, endless resources.
endless resources. Right. It's probably to do something mad that hasn't been done. So like it depends. Like I don't know. Let's say for example, it would be something stupid and ridiculous probably, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like I don't know, get a muscle gun to space
Yeah,
with a GoPro and then land it, or
yeah.
it would be something stupid. But in the meantime, if we are being a bit more realistic, and we obviously will have like deadlines and stuff like that, I would probably tell them to utilize everything that the world has to offer to them. So basically, me, a filmmaker, a person that's really good with Blender, a very good gaffer, lighter, and all that stuff. Maybe create sets, maybe create everything that we need. Have a whole crew so that we can create a very, very good ad, but it's going to be, I would not think of it as like a one thing, as in like, oh, it's an ad for TV, or oh, it's an ad for the website, for the social media platforms. I would try to create, because you would have those big setups, it would be more of like a take advantage of them as much as you can. So it would be create multiple mediums, multiple things. So it would be more like a package kind of deal instead of like a very specific. So like, for example, what one little thing I do, well, you need to give value to your customers. There should be a reason why they should come back, besides the fact that, you know, you make really good videos, good quality, your coloring is on point, because that's how I transition into video, through color grading, through a software called DaVinci Resolve. And like 4 years ago, before it was even mainstream, before it was anything, that was my first passion when I got into filmmaking, not the actual filmmaking, but actually color grading and bringing something to life and make it look pretty. But
if we circle back to CMP, you know, you're wearing a CMP top, you're out there, you know, they are your client, you're at their office
headquarters
right now.
at the minute.
And well, exactly, and we absolute shout out to them, because I personally love their marketing, and what we're talking about here is approaching your marketing assets rather than from a singular placement point of view. Right, we're looking at it as a campaign. There's a theme. So for context, when we're filming this podcast, they have just launched their big donut flavor protein powder. Doesn't roll off the tongue that easily. And just on this notion of, you don't need a huge budget to do something a bit different, to do bits of fun, because they've had influencers come down to the gym. We've had blow up donut inflatables. We've eaten massive donuts. We've done CrossFit workouts. We've done CrossFit photo shoots, all with 3D animated donuts around the weights, the boxes. Am I missing anything? They've done a ton of stuff with the...
Shout out to Isaac and Christopher as well. Like, they did an amazing job on all the 3D stuff. We did all that, and they also launched their website yesterday, which like 99% of the stuff is my stuff, is things that I done on a very, very long day shoot, but it was worth it. And like, it looks phenomenal. I'm not saying it because it's my work. I'm saying it because it's very well placed. It was very well organized. Chris and John as well, they did a great job organizing it. But yeah, it comes back to the point where, to that point in our discussion, where it should never, I don't think it should ever be like, I want 2 videos. Like, it shouldn't be like a very specific, I think more of like a package kind of thing is a lot better for the client long term than trying to shoot 1 or 2 videos. Because as I was trying to say before,
you've seen they've got out of it. Like you said, they've got a beautiful website, because you give them the assets. They've absolutely shout out to the team who've put so much hard work and organizing the organization to create this whole theme of content for social media and the website. And I think it's gone on from a few other placements, but it's content that just keeps on giving all the time. And that's, you know, only, I think, 4 days shoot, I reckon, is in total, in order to create this absolute ton of stuff.
I took, well, for the website, we did it for the stuff that's on the website. Obviously, the website shoot, it literally took us a day, but it was a full-on, very tiring day. But we're organized, we planned everything, because like, it's very important, since you have if you're gonna tackle something that big, you might as well tackle every aspect of it, so that you have, like, for example, supplements, or like whether you want to lose weight or whether you want to gain muscle or something like that. There are different approaches, and this is a way to like tackle different aspects, for example, of nutrition and supplements. And it's better to have that spectrum rather than having very specific, like one thing. We sell whey protein, and
Cool.
yeah, and so I obviously I love working with them ever since we did the whole the donut campaign. Like, it's been great. I love working with them. They're easy to work with as well. So shout out to everyone at CMP because they've been amazing. And I love creating stuff with them because it's like
Well, they're making it fun. They're making this whole business marketing process fun. You know, it doesn't because all the pre-planning's been put in place. You know, you've got the obviously experience of what needs to get done, and it doesn't have to be this frustration or headache or anything like that. You can just really, really enjoy what what you and the client are making, and overall just have fun with it.
Yeah, it's really hard work, and it isn't at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the mission and the value of this podcast, is showing how when you're in that flow, when you are working really hard, but because you're in that state of having fun with it and playing with it, you end up doing more and you end up producing better quality, and it doesn't feel like work. That's the crucial bit there. Just the passion is ignited, you're motivated, and your creative juices are flowing.
And at the end of the day, this is what, like, I have an e-commerce background in the meantime before I restarted my whole like visual work. I used to be in e-commerce for 4 years, and it's very like it was good. I gained a lot of like knowledge from it. It was good in that sense, but it was also like very clinical, very not creative, very based on numbers. And it's good to know your numbers, but at the same time, it's good to understand that, you know, like, I work with these guys and with a lot of other people that I work with, so like Train or Rainhill and stuff like that, and it's more like, oh, that looks cool, let's make that. You know, it's a bit, I won't call it more lax. You've got deadlines, you've got specific things that need to be in those videos, but you also get some things that are like, you know, you really enjoy making them. And at the end of the day, I think it's very important, like the path I'm chasing at the moment, which is like, and I'm very happy with work because I do what I love. And I think that's very important. And I know I work harder than I ever worked before, but
you're loving it even more.
It's fine, yeah.
And I think that's a really great place to kind of end today's podcast. I think that's a really lovely message to send to other business owners who might not be in that place, that it is achievable. You can do it. Now, you may not be able to answer this question, so we might have to edit it slightly. But what's the one thing a person can buy from you today that's under £100 that will add a ton of value to their life? And that could be either they could buy some videography equipment or software as well to help them with their business.
I can give you something that's £0, and that will have more value than anything. One of them is, if you want editing software, there's no need to go down the Adobe way and pay every month and all that stuff. Download DaVinci Resolve, the free version. This is how basically I restarted editing, because I used to be in Premiere Pro and it's just got too many kinks and too many crashes, and I've never had an issue with DaVinci. And it's slightly different, but it's an amazing software. It's what I use. It's what I'm certified to use at the minute as well. And the other thing is time. Time is the most valuable asset you have. Spend time, like, I know, like, I will spend time scrolling on Instagram. It's a lot more monitored now. I don't really do it as much. But but like I will spend usually scroll endlessly. But usually when I scroll to find like trending sounds or, you know, something quick that I might like and that I want to do, replicate or redo in my way. But instead of that, as I am doing it now that I have the knowledge to use the software, techniques for filming and all that stuff. But before that, I think I didn't use Instagram as much in terms of like, you know, endless scrolling and stuff like that. I probably I've used a lot of time on YouTube. There is my degrees in linguistics. It was never, I was always like a creative person, but my degrees in linguistics, I used to want to be an English teacher. Then I realized I do not have the patience for it. And I was given a camera for a little thing that they wanted me to do in 2008. And since 2010, which is like 12 years now, I haven't stopped ever since. So,
and the journey's just been from there.
Yeah. You can tell that, you probably cannot tell that I'm old, but I've been in this for a very long time. But
right, the camera's hiding all the grey hairs. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I've only have 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah.
Got a new one when I went to Greece. But yeah, like invest your time in learning, and don't just like learn in terms of like the theory. I think the most important is go out there with a camera if you want to do what I do, and go out and do mistakes and do loads of them, because you'll need all the mistakes to learn what not to do. And then you will find your niche, then you will find your style, which is very important and set you apart. You can start by copying others, you know, get inspiration and stuff like that. But you will slowly find that with time, it narrows to a very specific way. Like if you see a video, you know that's mine, whether it's the color grading, whether it's the way it's shot. I hope that every person that steps his foot in this creative industry is able to get down that path where you see their stuff and it's unique. And always support your fellow creatives, and always like look up to people that, you know, don't be like, oh, he's a better photographer than me, you know, block. I don't want to deal with that. No, learn.
There is so much merit for surrounding yourself with other creatives who are maybe even better than you, to bounce ideas off, to be around. And I think that is a really lovely message again to take away from today. Is to fail, to keep trying, keep experimenting. I've also been on this journey, and it doesn't. I think not only does it apply to the creative industry, it applies to every business. Every business has got to go through this rigmarole. But at the other end of the tunnel is uniqueness, is creativity, and it is a far better future if you are able to stick on the path and have the confidence to do it. Now, finally, one thing I did want to say, the profile picture for Charleh with Friends that I use on Instagram and in LinkedIn and Spotify, that was taken by Alex here. So if you want anybody, so that's me giving you credit, absolutely. That was done in a little studio, and again, half a day's shoot with a whole bunch of us from the team at KUB and Vision to Success.
And try to be quiet as well with the creaky floors.
And we've got a whole bunch of different photos, and the reason why I like that pick one, I think that was actually a test picture, ironically.
It was,
because that was me
a test one.
working out how to get the right smile, and I like it because it gives it feels like it's got an essence of my personality, which is what I like.
And a little like last bit, it's before we end this, since we said it is a test picture, I like to give to all my customers a bit of extra value. I would never just give them what they paid for. I would always like to give them a bit extra. So like, for example, let's say I do a video project with with Cobb, for example, or I do one with CMP or Rebel or Train or Rainhill or Muscle Gun. For example, I always make a little package, which I don't tell them, but now they will know because it's going to be on the podcast. I always make like a little package, and if it's possible, and what I do is, because of the gear I use and stuff like that, I can get really high res stills. So they will not know it's actually a still frame from a video. They think it's a picture actually taken. So I would give them a bit extra. So like all the nice frames I like,
yeah,
I usually send it to them as a package. And anything that looks good, I would send across. I know we can be a bit more like, creatives can be like, oh, this is how much, this is how many photos you get. Always give a bit more. Not too much, but give them something that is of value, like filter it down.
Mm-hmm.
And that can go a long way. It has gone a long way for me. That little extra that cost me only a bit of my time has gone a long way. It's more about building the relationship with the brands. And like, I am at that place now where I can say that I do not have to work with brands I do not like. I will work with the brands that I like working with. That's the freedom that you'll get at the end of it.
Yeah.
So that's very important.
That is the reward that many of us all seek. Well, thank you so much for coming on to Charleh with Friends. As always, a pleasure. It's always great to catch up with you. And I hope you have a great rest of the day.
I will. Hope you have one too.